Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Fractured Not Broken. I said edition, episode of Fractured Not Broken, the Relationship Wellness Podcast. It is your guy, Coach Reg, and I'm excited to be back with you yet again. Coach Reg, relationship expert, author, presenter, and podcast host. And in this episode, we're going to get into, do you know what you want? Right? Because oftentimes, relationships, let me give you more context, right? I think what happens is, we may want relationship. Now, I understand that people are jaded. They've had some bad experiences. They're not happy with the dating environment in the world. Men and women alike. I can't tell you how many times I hear the horror stories of dating. But that shouldn't really, hopefully it doesn't anyway, deter us from what we desire ultimately, and that is a companion or mate or life partner. But there's some things that should come into play, right? So this message or this episode may be geared more towards those persons who are at least open, those persons who are actively dating, those persons who are hopeful to someday be in committed relationship. And so I just kind of want to share some things that I've been thinking about based on conversations I've had. And I believe that may help us as we are making that decision or navigating the dating, the streets, as I refer to. So, do you know what you want? A couple of questions I think are important to ask ourselves, right? Not just do we know what we want, but what do we really value, right? What are our convictions? What are our non-negotiables? And what areas or what things are we willing to be flexible about? And what that introduces is the concept of critical thinking, right? Critical thinking essentially is your ability to look objectively at the things that you desire, not subjectively, just in terms of the lens that you look through is not just what you want, but it's being honest with yourself, being courageous enough to be honest with yourself about your biases, right? For example, I've heard women say who've been disappointed by men that there's a trust issue. Men are going to do this, men are going to do that. Some women even say as much as men are dogs, right? Now, I'm not saying every woman. Let me be very clear. But the comments, it's less about the comment and more about what they're saying. Where does that come from, right? And so critical thinking says, okay, if I'm that person who makes statements about someone, about a man, if I'm a woman, or a man about a woman, if you're a person who makes comments about the opposite gender or about the opposite gender, the question that I'm asking you to consider asking yourself is, if that comment is not positive, and even if it is positive, where does it come from, right? Is there an experience? Is it something that I have had to deal with, or is it something that someone told me about and I kind of took it on and said, yeah, you're right? Because that's, again, that groupthink is a problem. We're talking about independent, individual thinking. Folks, let me just say this to you really quickly. Something that I appreciate and applaud and absolutely encourage is independent thought, right? Too many times and too many people are what I refer to as mentally lazy. They'd rather not think about themselves, but it's like if it sounds good for someone else or someone else, it seems whatever they perceive seems to be working or they're hearing seems to be working for someone else. Like, yeah, I want that too. That is not critical thinking, folks. No, that's not critical thinking at all. That's a little bit lazy, quite frankly. So we're talking about what you want, right? We're talking about your biases. We're talking about thinking critically about the things that you want and asking yourself, why are these things important? Critical thinking suggests that you, again, not just look at yourself objectively, but you look at the things that matter to you, that you say you desire in your person, but keeping in mind, too, that once you are saying, I want these things or I desire these things, also ask yourself, am I willing to offer these things? And maybe not identical one-to-one, but the question really is, or I should say, the thought really is, do I offer what I ask is whatever that person that I may be paired and partnered with, am I willing to meet them where they have need as well, where I can? Or am I going to be selfish and just only think of what I want, right? So when we talk about what do you want, it's really important to think it through. I'll give you for instance. Now, some of you know, you may have seen previous episodes, that I've been married and divorced twice. And my first marriage, I was literally 21. Didn't know myself, didn't know her, and we didn't know each other, right? And what I did not understand or did not know to do at that time is that you hear a thing and you say, man, okay, for example, let's use beliefs, right? If you say to someone, or someone says to you, so, well, I'm a Christian. And they say, well, I'm a Christian too. Whatever your beliefs are, they are, okay? But the point is, if you just take it at face value and don't disaggregate what that means or ask more questions around what that person's view of their belief system is, their walk is, but you take it for granted just because, hey, they said they're the same thing. They believe as I do. Yeah, folks, that's what we're talking about. Right? It's like, it sounds good, but do we know to think beyond the initial comment? Do we know to ask questions beyond the initial comment of or thought of, this is what I am, this is how I feel, this is what I believe? And that extends even to parenting. Say you meet a person young, you can meet a person now and talk about things you desire, things you've learned, things you want. It's not enough to stay at the surface. Critical thinking suggests that we go, or better yet encourages, that we go beneath the surface of the question. For example, say you meet someone, say you don't have children, say that person doesn't have children, and you both say, man, I want children. That's great. Here's the challenge, or here's the encouragement, right? Ask them how they view parenting. It's not enough to say, I want children. Belief systems, your values, these things come into play and should be discussed. Too many times we stay on the surface and don't delve a little deeper to ask those questions to determine if we're aligned, because we can take alignment or believe we may be aligned with someone based on something they said or something we said, and it sounds like we agree. You may, and I'm not saying that once you ask questions and kind of peel back the layers, if you will, of the onion, that you won't still be aligned and you won't still agree. My encouragement and admonishment is to have the conversations, be courageous enough, right, to really talk about what you want. And understand, folks, if the person doesn't want what you want, it's okay. We're not looking for clones. What we're looking to determine if we can coexist, if the things that matter to us, if the things that we value, if we can find common ground. Now, you know, we had to get some EQ in here because that's what this is, relationship management, right? This isn't about just how you feel. It's about how can I be successful with someone. And again, if you've had bad experiences, it's understandable. Question, what did I learn from those experiences? Am I still harboring some hurt, some resentment that prevent me from being present and showing up as my best self, as my authentic self? Critical thinking. What do I want? Here's the thing, folks. We can have those conversations. We can only account for ourselves, right? We hope that the person that we're considering and is considering us is courageous enough to do the same for themselves, right? And to be also courageous enough to have a conversation, not a disagreement, not an argument. It's a conversation. Here's why this is so important. And I encourage you guys to do this, all of us, I should say, to do this early and often, because there's no investment. You may think you like the person and they may think they like you based on what they see and based on what's been presented thus far. But rather than continuing with someone over some inordinate amount of time and taking for granted that you feel the same way, believe the same way, desire the same things, have the conversations. Speak to what you're noticing. If there are things along the way that you're like, I'm not sure about this, ask a question. Please don't let convenience and comfort deter you from being courageous enough to ask the question. Now, back to those things that are when you're considering someone and asking, what do I want? Okay, what things also maybe consider asking yourself, what things am I firm on? Like what are I won't even call them, I guess they could be non-negotiables. Yeah, we'll go with that. Let's say something like I was talking to someone and they gave this example and I said, man, that's pretty good. Like, I think her question was like, how can you be of this age and not know what you want? And, because she was asking like, do you want a stay-at-home wife? Do you want her to be a stay-at-home mom? Do you want her to work? What do you want? And he said, I'm good either way. And she actually was taken aback from what she shared and said that she didn't understand that. She didn't get why he wasn't clear on what he wanted in terms of a wife. If he wanted her to be a wife, stay-at-home mom, just stay-at-home wife, what was her level of contribution? And she said, I just don't understand why that's a thing. Why doesn't he know what he wants? I said, well, maybe because it's not that important to him. It's okay that it's important to you, but it may not be something that concerns him because he's like, I'm good either way because I can care for us. If she wants to contribute, we can talk about that. If she doesn't want to contribute, that's okay. I got us. But she had a feeling about it. And so she says, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. And again, folks, sometimes we feel so strongly about the things that matter to us. And it doesn't mean that the other person places the same level of value as we do. Now, that's a soft one. Flexibility. Because he says, hey, I can, she could work, she cannot work. Let's try this one. Say there's someone who wants children and you don't. Or if you have children and don't want any more. Is it worth continuing in relationship with someone where you recognize that you're not aligned? See, in the example, he was okay if his wife worked or didn't. But let's say he didn't want children. And say she said, I would like a child. Maybe he had his child, maybe he has children or didn't want them or whatever the case may be. But that's something that he's clear on. Because at this station of life, he's like, hey, my kids are older. I'm not really trying to start over, so forth and so on. And she may herself have children, but says, hey, I still want another one. Because again, it's nothing wrong with your desires, folks. There's nothing wrong with that. The idea is to find out if you're aligned. What do you want? Are you courageous enough to lean into your convictions and stand by those things? Or are you going to say, I don't really feel this strongly, or I do feel this strongly, low key, but I'm not going to tell them. I figure they'll see how awesome I am, and then they'll change their mind. Anyone made that choice before? You started in something and you said, oh, it's not so bad. It'll get better. Remember I told you about being younger? You don't know what you don't know. And then life deals you some blows and you realize, man, I should have probably made a better choice. I should have been more honest with myself. I should have been more honest with that other person because this doesn't work for me. I don't like this, which is why it's so important, folks, to pay attention to the experiences we have and ask ourselves, what am I learning? What did I learn? And from what I've learned, has it helped me better define what I want? And be courageous enough to talk about and discuss and share the thing that I want, absent of rejection or processing or hearing. A person says, no, I'm not open to that. Be thankful. They saved you time. Yeah, it's going to sting. I'm not saying it doesn't. We're not talking about this is absent of emotion. What we're saying is, hey, listen, at least I know. And let me say this also. You may start away, but then things change. Things can change. Your desires may change. Their desires may change. My point is, folks, have the conversation. Just check in. Things may be the same, and that's good news. But please don't take for granted that they stayed the same from the first time you had the conversation, especially when you're getting to know someone and date someone, because life changes, things happen outside of us, things happen within us, that our desires may shift. And that shift is okay. My encouragement to you is to have the conversation, to share. If you're in a relationship, pay attention to your person. What are you noticing? Hey, I'm curious. When we talked about that before, you said this. I just wanted to check in to see if you're kind of in the same space. Yeah, how you feel about the thing, right? Hope this is making sense. I really, really do. This was one that that happened recently, and again, back to subtlety, right? Say you meet someone you really digging, and they dig you back. And this is another story where, another example that I just thought of, where the woman is older than the man. She has children and wants no more. Again, he's younger than she. Not sure what the delta is. It's really not the point. But he wants children. And he's voiced his desire to her. And she's not really told him where she is on that. But she likes him. And so they're dating, or they're getting to know each other, and she likes sharing time with him. He enjoys sharing time with her, but they don't want the same things, folks. And my heart's desire is that at some point that she is willing to let this man know where she is, so that they don't find themselves a year, 2 years into a relationship because they like each other and they were never honest with each other. And maybe he thought, because she didn't say, hey, I do want more children, or she kind of said, well, I'm open to it, or we'll see, or some loose example that just truly means no. Because your no should be your no and your yes should be your yes, unless you're open. If you're truly open to something, then say, I'm open to it, but I'm not making any promises. But if you know emphatically that you're not, please tell the person. Please resist the temptation to be so selfish, wanting what you want at the expense of this person. Don't be that person, please. Let's be better, right? Let's work to show up and present as our best selves in whatsoever relationship we choose to participate. Another one, and I think we probably got to get out of here in a bit, but something else that can be challenging, right? Again, we're talking about, what do I want? We're talking about critical thinking. Now, loneliness is real. If you're someone who desires companionship, desires partnership, and you haven't met your person, or that person that you feel, or you feel you've met the person, but the person may not feel the same about you, you're misaligned, right? And so what can happen is that we may find ourselves sharing time, sharing resources, and even sharing ourselves, our bodies, with someone that we know that we're not best suited for, and they're not for us. But we do so because we'd rather have someone around. This is not judgment, folks. This is honest. I don't have an opinion about it. I'm asking you to choose you. That's what I need you to understand. Because we're talking about, what do you want? If that's a choice you make and you're not strong enough to make a better one or a different one, then that's okay. I won't even say better, to make a different choice. But just acknowledge and be honest with yourself. And please don't, if that's what it is, if that's your truth, then that's your truth. If that's something that you need some assistance with to build your self-esteem, to build your confidence, to understand your value, then that's why you work with coaches. Me, right? Because we all need assistance with perspective navigating relationship challenges, no matter the relationship, and especially one as close as romantic or desire. Because here's the thing, folks. Remember, we talked about this. Acceptance is the gateway to peace. Rejection of the facts or the truth is the gateway to continued frustration. It's going to require some work, folks. It's going to require courage to look in the mirror. Ask yourself, what do I want? To think critically about those things. To be honest about your biases. To be courageous enough to lean into your biases and ask yourself, is the bias really, where's this bias come from? Is this a bias that is, man, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to think that way anymore. Or this is a bias I accept. And either answer is fine. The idea is for you to know what the answer is, so you know what you want. And when you know that, you present more courageous, you present more confident, and it's less about what somebody thinks about what you're saying, because you're not delivering it harshly, you're delivering it honestly. Okay, I think we got it. Listen, yeah, that was straight off the top. I had some notes, but hit a few of them. Hope it made some sense. Let me know in the comments what you think, folks. You know, we got a couple pods out there now. I hope you're enjoying them. I'm enjoying delivering. I'm hoping that they're landing. I'm hoping that it makes sense. I hope that you're hearing my heart and my desire to connect with you and to reach you in this way. Again, let me know in the comments. Also, if you're someone who wants to maybe be a guest on a pod, get out to the website, rucoach.com. Fill out the guest request form. We can see if it can happen. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with you, excited for a brand new year, because this episode will be released in 2024. And yeah, we're going to do great things in 2024, folks. Listen, I will see you on the next episode. It is your guy, Coach Reg, and I love. Take good care. Bye.